Do 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 nee, 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 nee. Okay, that was me doing the intro music that's done by Phil Coffey, aka Max Phil. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate that. I was thinking for this episode, I've been wanting to do just a solo dolo one, but I keep forgetting to record it. So the time is now 8:33 a.m. and it is Tuesday. And I think what I'm going to do is just let it go, let it rip, and see what happens. I'm not going to edit this. I might leave the video on, just so you know right now, I'm starting this video, and I might actually keep that, but I also might change my mind because I am a little bit shy about you being able to see inside of my closet, although it is a fun closet, but it's missing a door. But I want you to guess how many times I've requested in the maintenance portal for a door. Leave your answers below. Like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your answers below for a prize. Um, Anyways, I was thinking this could be really fun, a writer's log, captain's log type thing, because I just wanted to tell everyone what I'm up to. Also, you know, I feel like in this podcast, this interview podcast, obviously I'm talking to a lot of other people, which I love, but I don't talk about myself. I'm never talking about myself enough. So I think a lot of things are happening right now that I would like to share with the podosphere. Number one, I have my cast for Saving Grace. So if you have been following on the Substack and catching the vibe checks, then you know I've been writing a play called Saving Grace. I had callback auditions last week Wednesday, and I solidified my cast. And tomorrow, Wednesday, February 19th, we are all getting together and doing our first table read through all together with everyone who's there. I'm so excited. Casting is so incredibly hard because when I write something, I'm never going into it thinking this is how I need this character to look. I'm very open to just different interpretations because when I write, it feels much more of this could be anybody because these are just human emotions. We're all existing, floating on this rock. These are just human emotions, so it could be anyone. And everyone that I brought back to the callback was just so different from one another. Sorry. Was so different from each other. And every time someone stepped into a role, it felt like a totally different story. And that makes things incredibly harder, of course. And you just have to go with your gut. What's great though is I did have my friend Lacey sit in as gave her a little producer title. And after we left and we were talking about it, she had the same. I didn't say anything first. She was just saying, "Oh, these are my thoughts. Obviously, it's up to you." And she had said the same people that I was thinking. I thought, okay, my gut's in the right place. My gut is in the right place, and it's expressing outward as well. So I'm super thrilled. It's gonna be amazing. Saving Grace, I still have not figured out. When people say, "Oh, what's your play about?" Or is anything about, life, love, the pursuit of happiness. But I'm getting closer to some sort of log line because I also did submit it, just the play itself, the writing, to a festival, and I had to come up with a little log line. And I think I wrote something along the lines of like, Saving Grace explores what happens when we choose comfort over growth, something like that. Everything is just about decisions. That is what I like to think about: time and decisions. Those are, I feel like, big major themes in everything that I write. We're always playing with time in some way, or everything is just about like major decisions, which is just life, right? Life is just about decisions. Decision fatigue. That's why Steve Jobs wore that. It was Issey Miyake, right? Issey Miyake sweater and jeans and sneakers all the time, so you wouldn't have to think so hard about creating beautiful products that have really advanced our lives. Because here I am on this MacBook and here I am taking a call from my iPhone. But anyways, I think so. I wanted to give an update on Saving Grace, and here's my cat. I want to give an update on Saving Grace. That's something I definitely want to do. And I will be making regular updates just about more on how I'm feeling, how the process is going in the Vibe Check newsletter. So make sure you're subscribed to that, cabbagehouse.substack.com. I do want to give a little plug to Wednesday, March 5th, I think it is, the first Wednesday in March. That's not, I'm looking, yes, Wednesday, March 5th, Cabbage House is having its first real event, and Gyug Spoo is going to be our little philosophy professor. We're going to explore themes of the self and other drugs, and it's going to be really, really great. You can also find more info about that at cabbagehouse.substack.com. And if you are located in New York, you should come because it's just a really cool thing. I like to describe it as, I want to put emphasis on, we are very open to disagreeing there. That is a big thing. I don't like echo chambers. We're disagreeing, but we're also respecting each other. We come to this place for magic, you know. No, I think it's important to set up environments where people don't have to agree with each other to still understand that our hearts are in the right place, or even if they're in different places, none of us have malicious intent. So make sure if you're coming to this, you're coming with a very open mind. You like a little hearty debate and you like a little hearty agreement. We have done these in my apartment and they're super fun. Obviously, it's mostly just friends and close people. And I'm really excited to open it up to the extended Cabbage House communities, the extended Cabbage Heads, Cabbage Shrunken Heads. Doesn't matter. Okay, so I think what I want to talk about in this little episode that deviates from the interview series is the power of not planning. I was thinking about this in the shower that I took like 20 minutes ago. And the power of not planning, because that's what I do. I don't plan. People ask me like, "Oh, where do you find the time to do some amazing things that I do?" Just kidding. Do so many things that I do, and I think the answer to that for me is that I don't plan anything. And I'm not saying that is a good thing. I think that the sweet spot, of course, lies somewhere in between someone like me and someone who is a hyper planner. But I find that for me, if I start planning too much, it just means I'm never going to do it. If I sit down and like, let's come up with a plan, that project has never seen the light of day because I am a very gas pedal kind of person, which brings me to how you just need a bunch of people to bake a cake, right? Because I've hired a stage manager for this production of Saving Grace, and already my life is so different. My life is so different. Like, and she hasn't even done much. We've met maybe twice, and we've emailed back and forth a few times. She's come up with a rehearsal schedule. She did like a French breakdown of the play, French scene breakdown, I think it's called, plays, which is good for, you know, who's on stage, who's not, who's off stage, but voices on, and it's so helpful just to see it that way. And her brain works like that, and that is exactly what I need, so I can, you know, focus on being the creative genius that I am. But she's incredible. She's still in college, and I shout out to Marilisa, because you are already saving my life. She's coming up with like a prop list, and I could not have done that myself at all. We would be floundering for sure. But I knew I was going to hire a stage manager for this project no matter what. And I'm glad that I found a really, really great one who loves theater and also just loves to, I'm like, oh, how can I also structure this so you're getting a lot out of it, you know, especially still being in college. And, you know, I'm like, are there parts of this process that you want to do more of? You know, I'm pretty loosey-goosey. How can I help you? And she's just like, yeah, no, I'll definitely speak up if there's other things that I want to lead more into, but mostly I'm just happy to help. And it just is a really light shiner of how everyone just shines in different ways and loves to do different things. So I'm really, really excited about that. But anyways, back to the power of not planning for me. I do think that a lot of people get stuck in the planning process because once you do start planning and you're seeing, wow, well, this is so much bigger than I thought it would be. This is so much more than I think I can do. And especially if you're not a strong planner, then it'll really take the winds out of your sail to plan. So I encourage everyone who feels like they get stuck in the planning phase to try to just do it. And you might fail. You probably will, because that is just the name of the game of life, right? Although Apollo 13, failure is not an option. And you could tweak that to mean anything you want, because is it really failure if you learn something great from it that you can apply to the next go around? I don't think that's failure at all. I think that is a success. So if you're someone who gets stuck in the planning phase, I really want to encourage you to try to just get in the car and step on the gas. Put your seatbelt on, but just step on the gas and see what happens. And by that, you know what I mean, right? Put away the planner, put away the notebook, and just sit down and do it. I know I'm in like the writing subreddit. First of all, what is it about writers that they come off so pretentious? What is that? It is crazy. I think just out of all the artists, and maybe it's just because I am a writer, and so I hear more about them, I see more things, but they just come off so pretentious, so tiring. Like, I think a lot of them really buy into the glass of whiskey, late night, alcoholism, writing, writing, writing. And I guess it's because writers are, by way of it, just big old thinkers, because you have to get a bunch of words on paper to express your idea, how it is trying to be expressed. And I think that a lot of writers try to be understood rather than to understand. Well, that's not true, because you have to understand a lot. Because writing is a human empathy. But anyways, in the writing subreddit, everyone's like, how do you approach writing? People are like, oh, I sit down, make a full outline, beginning to end. People will just start writing without an end, and that's how they fail. Da, 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 da. And I think that that's the wrong idea to look at things. But obviously that works really well for some people, and some people should definitely do that. So I'm thinking, if you just kind of sit down at your desk and start typing away, maybe some kind of magic will happen. Maybe not, but I think it's good practice to just sit down and do things. I had a professor once who was talking about how people always wait until they're inspired to do something, and oh, I can't produce this magic unless I am, just really feeling inspired to do so. And this professor, sorry, my head is, I'm thinking, this professor basically shone a light on, if you want to do this as a profession, you can't just sit around waiting for lightning to strike. Sometimes you just have to sit down and do your job. And I think that is a great way to look at things. Of course, there's something to be said about inspiration and the moon hitting just right on your face and soaking up the of it all. But I think sometimes if you haven't written anything in like a month, or that's not even a long time, if you haven't written anything in a year and it's just because, oh, I haven't felt inspired to, consider that it's not inspiration. Consider maybe that you're afraid, and maybe it's the planning process that you're afraid of. So sit down and let her go. Just try that. What helped for me is turning the Substack into the vibe check and creating these images to go along with the writing that I was doing, because something about traditional blogging just was really giving me the heebie-jeebies. I just did not like it. I didn't like seeing my words on just like this blank white internet paper. It just really, I didn't like it at all. And so I find that I really look forward to writing the inside the cabbage head section of the vibe check, because it just feels more fun. And so I think you have to find what feels fun for you as well. I think that's the power of not planning. We're only at like 15 minutes. I'm gonna ring this out for 15 minutes more. What I think I want to talk about next is, I'm gonna keep talking about the power of not planning. I'm thinking about what I was doing the callbacks for Saving Grace, and thinking about being an actor myself, and so much magic happens when you just get out of your head, when you're really just letting yourself live in that character, letting her rip. Because it's just about feeding into your gut, getting into those that safe space that you can explore that mind-body connection. And maybe there's something about being physically active in that too, the mind-body connection. Maybe there's something about doing yoga. Maybe there's something about just coming up with a workout practice that feels good for you. And people who know me are saying, Shanita's talking about working out. I get physical these days, so don't worry about me. Worry about you. But there's a Substack I follow, I think. Maybe I don't follow it, but it's about the power of going for long walks. You're talking the power of going on long walks. And this person talks about how that healed them, just kind of putting your phone away and going for a really, really long walk. And I like to do that. I like to, because especially I feel like in New York, you can't get lost. It's a grid system. Follow the grid. So leaving your phone at home and going for a walk, taking in everything, maybe bringing a pen and paper with you, and not really to jot down notes. I am not a doodler, but when I go for a walk, I will but if I get so inspired to put pen to paper on anything, it is to make a little doodle. And it is not a good doodle. It doesn't have to be right. There's no good, bad here. It's just a doodle it's not even necessarily a doodle of anything that I'm looking at. It's just a doodle of the emotion that I'm feeling in this moment. Sometimes I just have to go like, blip, 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 blip. And that feels good. So I'm talking about mind-body connection, gut feeling, acting, letting it go in terms of the power of not planning. Yeah, I guess just working off of instinct. All of us have instinct, and it's important to learn to trust your gut. I make that my New Year's resolution pretty much every year is just trust your instincts more. Just think about how many times you kind of knew. You just knew. What did you know? It doesn't matter. You just knew, but then you convince yourself, oh, I'm being like irrational. There's no real evidence for that. And then it came out that you were right. And you have to kick yourself in the booty a little bit, thinking, why didn't I just listen to my gut? And of course, there is something there in terms of overthinking or just being like an irrational person, but life is irrational. So I don't think you can sit so much in the rational. You a lot of times just have to go on a feeling, and people might ask you, oh, why do you feel that way? Da, da, da. And just go, I don't know, I just know. I always say, like, I'm a witch, I'm a psychic witch. What that really is just kind of pattern recognition. And it's not even like a conscious pattern recognition. It's just like anytime these traffic lights have lined up this way, this has been the result. So therefore, I can conclude that because these traffic lights are lining up this way, this will be the result. Of course, I leave myself open to that not being the result, but a lot of times that is. So I think that we need to lean into trusting our guts more. I'm feeling a little stressed right now, I'm not going to lie, because this is so rough around the edges, because this is so off the rip, and I am going to post it. I've decided I'm just going to do it. And I hope that you guys have fun listening to it. I do also want to talk about, give me a minute. I do want to give a moment in this podcast to talk about understanding over being understood. And I touched on this a little bit, but I think that so many of us focus on being understood because, of course, that feels like a really good emotion to sit in. You want to be around people who make you feel understood. That's super important. But I think now more than ever, we need to put some focus in also understanding each other. Because if we're putting focus on understanding each other, then surely everyone will feel understood, right? I think it's important in discussions when you really disagree with each other to be able to take away one or two things that you understand that person is saying, even if you don't totally agree with it. You don't have to agree with something that you understand. Oftentimes I'll watch a movie, not oftentimes, that's just a word that I say sometimes. I'll watch a movie and maybe I won't like it. And then someone will say, oh, I think that you just didn't get it. No, I definitely got it. I just don't like it. It's just not my cup of tea. And I think we can apply that to discussion with people that we disagree with as well. Sometimes I'll be in conversation with a person and they will iterate and reiterate their point that I have understood, and they'll do it in so many different words in so many different ways. And I have to say, hey, I understand what you're saying. I just don't agree. And that's fine. But I totally understand. And I think that can be really frustrating because I do think that somewhere along the lines it was put out there that um you can like anything you understand, or um uh just like understanding was the key to agreeing. But the truth is sometimes you just understand and that's not for you, and that is fine. You can still appreciate it, accept it. You can also not appreciate it and not accept it, but still understand where that person is coming from, where those thoughts arose from, arose from. And I think that's really important to sit in. But I've been wanting to talk about that for a while. Understanding versus being understood. One time, long ago, my friend, brilliant woman, I think I brought this up to her too, because it's like this stuck in my head for a long time. But she, I think, I don't know what the situation was, but she turned back and looked at me and she says, you know, my mother often told me that sometimes it's better to understand than to be understood. And I think it's also nice to be understood, of course. I don't think there's anything that can replace that, but I do think that there is importance in understanding people, especially today. I'll just say it, I'll just name it. In a time where division is so great and everyone is yelling at each other, everyone is so mad at each other, I think we would do better to understand each other. I think that we would do better to understand why people who seem to be so filled with hate seem to be that way. I think a lot of it is fear-based, and a lot of people are really, 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 really scared. I think that the American country, while built on rebellion, is also built on fear. I think it's kind of a fear-based country. Maybe I'll talk about that in the vibe check. I want to talk about one more thing, and then I'm gonna sign off. I want to talk about, and I'm gonna talk about this in the vibe check to expand on it more. I think I'm gonna do like a scatter plot examples. I want to talk about horniness versus cringiness, because I think that I've decided recently that there is a big difference. Because I've been using the word corny a lot, and why have I brought this word back? I think I've said this more than I even said in the 90s. And cringe became like a huge thing on the internet. Like, I may be cringe, but I am free. And I think for me, the difference in those two, what would you call them? Feelings, actions, those two qualifiers, is that horniness is insincere and cringe is sincere. Cringe, you're doing something that is extremely genuine and sincere, and therefore it feels like because you are exposing a part of yourself, a beautiful part of yourself. Well, we hope a beautiful part of yourself, right? I think that is cringe. Cringe is the path to accepting your truest self, to becoming your truest self, is to shed layers of I care about what people think and just do what you want to do. Being real. I think that is cringe. Horniness, I think, is insincere. I think horny is when someone is doing something because they think they're supposed to do it, or because they think it's going to get them a certain thing. They think it's going to make people think they are a certain way. They think it's going to present a certain way. I think that is corny. Whenever I'm calling something corny, it's like that person is not really like that. They are faking, and therefore this is like a corny thing that exists. They're pretending to be overly sentimental in order to curry favor. That is what I think. When I'm saying corny, at least, that is what I'm talking about. I'm not saying corny to hate on someone. I'm usually saying corny like, person right there is not real, or whatever she said on that plane. So that is my definition, corny versus cringe. Okay, I don't really feel like rambling anymore on this, but I do think I'll do another one of these. I don't know how many artists like us episodes I've done or I've published, but I'll do a more regular thing in terms of however many I published, let's say I published 7 just now. I don't think I did. Let's say I published 5. The 6th will be me, just me. And so I'll do like another 5, and the 6th will be just me, and I'll plan it out better. But I do like that it's kind of off the cuff. But maybe I'll come up with just bullet points. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. So I'm not just rambling. And before I got on here, I said to myself, I will post this as long as I don't say like and a bunch. And I haven't done that at all, which I think means that I may have become a perfect person overnight. Let me know what you think. Anyway, thank you so much for joining Artists Like Us. And then I say, what's the outro? Artists Like Us. If you know someone who should be an artist like us, head to cabbagehouse.xyz/artists like us and fill out the form if you want to be an artist like us. Okay, I'm gonna stop now.